approximately $34,000 a year for the next
roughly,
4
yeah,
years.
roughly 25 to 30,000 a year.
Okay, and then in the latter years, probably the costs will go down a little bit.
Yeah.
We got the construction costs first.
Yeah, and the construction cost will be a one-time event, so the rest of it will be them going up monitoring the flows and then preparing annual reports for us.
Rich?
That was my question. We're only approving the
First year.
The first year, right?
Yes.
Not a 10-year contract.
I do. I think it's important that we move forward and find out. I mean, we talk about we have it on paper, but paper doesn't. It's a piece of paper, and it's time that we really start doing this research and finding out exactly what we have, so we know how to plan for the future and what we can and can't do.
Yeah, I mean, our obligation to the public is to try to develop water resources. Yeah, I guess some of my hesitation is location, how are we going to actually utilize this water in the future? That money be better spent trying to do some other kind of research in other places. But I mean, it's a resource that we have that we haven't quantified yet, too. So I'm kind of right now in my own mind. I'm just kind of split. Is this the direction we need to go? I agree with you that it'd be nice to find out what's really there. The 10-year agreement. When you start looking at a 10-year agreement, and $250,000, and is that going to? Where's that going to get us? Versus a study based in 222 or 223, and if we have 7,000 EDUs that people end up tying up, is that going to really? Is that water going to satisfy what we need to do, or should we start looking at other resources? So I guess I would like to see. I don't know how far this first year takes us. If they can, after 1 year, tell us, it's worth pursuing or it's not. So I guess I'm a little bit divided right now, and I'm concerned about the future of that area. So.
Barb, and then over to Rich.
I've been telling this 2,500 acre feet of water that we have paper rights to for 7 years. I would love to know how much actual water we have. But I have one big sticking point in my thought process. I have some real concerns. I think they are valid concerns that by January 21st, 2017, that area will be declared a national monument. We have two politicians, one of which, that's his pet project up there in Gold Butte. And I do believe that one of his legacies going out the door is to have that area declared a national monument. And the one that can make that happen is a good friend of his and doesn't mind signing his name. So, if that does happen, which is 15 months down the road, we've got a whole nother problem with that water up there other than how much is actually there. And there is actual situations in other national monuments. Go look them up if you don't want to believe it. In that, even though water rights were certificated by the state, the water district had the legal authority to get them. Because that land was declared a national monument, they were not allowed to go back in there and get the water. They were not allowed to construct use any mechanized and motorized vehicles. So I have some real concerns about starting out, spending this money, and it's $34,000 the first year plus the $25,000 construction cost. Is that right? So you're talking $60,000 the first year. And who knows if we'll ever be able to go up there the second year.
But we don't know if we won't either.
That's a fact. But we only have 15 months to put this in abeyance. We've had those certificates, those water rights for how many years? Since this water district was created in 1993? 22 years we've had those certificates, right? I don't have a problem waiting 15 more months because we've got a whole different ballgame with that water, our rights. The state engineer can say we've got whatever we want or whatever he says we get on paper. If that's a national monument, there's all likelihood that we will not be able to access that water. We don't know at this point. My point is this. I don't mind waiting 15 more months to start this study if in fact that area is declared a national monument. And then we're gonna have to work out details with the BLM and with the National Park Service on whether we can go back there the second year. So I am extremely hesitant to spend $60,000 right now. We're not looking to access that water in real time in the next 15 months. We don't need to, right? We already know we have adequate water from our main source in 222, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so it's not like within the next 15 months, we need to get up there and build some pipes to get the water down here because we're in desperate need of it. Is that true?
That's true. But what we don't know is how much water can we depend on up there. We're in a drought right now, and this is the perfect time to determine how much water we have in our low flow periods. And if we wait 15 months and the drought's over and we start studying it when, it's kind of like when they divvied up the water on the Colorado River in the early 1900s, when it was flowing like crazy. And that's how they based the flows on the river, to all the states. Similar, on a smaller scale, similar to here, if we don't know, have a historical number on what those springs will provide to us. And right now we know that this is historic low flow periods. If we don't know what the low flow periods are, we're going to be in that bad position 10 years from now if we're making decisions on high flow times. Aaron showed me pictures from 2012 of that area where water was just flowing like crazy out of that area. And if flows return to that time period and we start to study during that time period and we miss another drought cycle, we're going to miss out on the low flow measurements. And you know, I'll do whatever the board wants me to do. I just think that now's the time to start studying what we do have so we can make long-term decisions when we do need to have that opportunity. And I don't know what 15 months will do to us. No one knows what 15 months down the road is going to do to us. I just want to be prepared in the event that we do have the water
And
availability.
so do I, but I believe that the political considerations that are gonna happen over the next 15 months are gonna have severe impact on anything we do in that long-term 10 years.
Let's hear from Rich, and then I have a few comments.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, I forgot what I was gonna say. It's been a while. I got the memory span of a goldfish, about 3 seconds, so. I respect what Barbara's saying, I understand her concerns, but I kind of have to disagree. I understand we've had those water rights a long time, but shame on the people, that the previous managers that haven't gone up there and done the work to perfect those. We're not talking about something that's gonna benefit us tomorrow, but we're talking about a resource we have. Talking about 223, we don't have any claims in 223 that I'm aware of. So to go over and do a study in 223, just spending money to find out something else for somebody else that has water rights. And these water rights are ours. So I think we need to, the best way to use, I mean, anything could happen politically. The best way to lose water is to not take care of it, not to do anything with it. You learn that in class, didn't you? Just let it sit there. So we take the time, we spend some money to go up there and perfect these. I think we have a lot stronger claim should something occur. Last I saw, even if they did designate a monument, I don't think these were inside the NCA unless they expand the monument beyond the NCA, what was considered to be the NCA. These water rights would not be inside of the monument.
Some of them will.
Some of them are? Is that your understanding, Aaron?
Depends what NCA becomes.
The original, the previous NCA we had a plan for. These were not inside of it as far as I'm aware.
Nickel Creek, I thought was right outside of it.
Just outside.
You're
Right.
talking wilderness.
No, we're talking the NCA.
Nickel Creek was inside the NCA boundaries, outside 2,500 feet away from the boundary of the wilderness.
No,
That's two different things.
I think it was
Nickel
20. I
Creek
think it was
was
20.
inside that
I think it was
NCA boundary.
2,500 feet away from what they were designating as NCA. The way I remember it. Well, we can agree.
I'll bring
that-
you a map.
All right, that'd be great.
Okay.
So, I mean, 15 months, 15 years, you know, 23, it's been 23 years, but that's, when I got on the board, it's kind of what I pushed for, was to get that right away to Nickel Creek and to get these rights perfected. That's 2,500 acre feet is half, little less than half of what we're using right now for the whole valley. It's a lot of water. We need that water for future growth. The other nice thing is, it doesn't have to be treated. And how far away is it from our closest resource, the tank?
It's approximately 7 miles.
7 miles, so, you know, and it's not that far off.
That's something that the study will help define as well as treatment. If there's any surface water influence, if it's not, how we can protect that.
And even if you were to go up there and look at some of these springs, you're not gonna see water, especially in the summer. Most of the water's in the desert underneath the ground.
Yeah,
So-
so true. Even in the fall right now, it's a little drier part of the time of year.
Yeah, last 10 years, it's been pretty drought. Anyway, I'm all in favor of getting started on this. I understand it's $60,000, but it's a small price to pay for that amount of water.
But anything can change. I mean, 15 months, we can find out that there's no national monument. The other thing that I would like to see is we get our foot in the door, we get those structures up and start monitoring the water. And if they do make it a national monument, we can deal with it then. But I think we need to get the study going and move forward and stake out our claim.
Perfect our plan.
Perfect our claim. Any other board comments? Sandra?
I understand that, you know, it's been 23 years, we've had them, it is on paper, we've never known, but to not know is, I think, worse than anything else that could happen to us. I mean, we need to know what's there. And I agree, Basin 222, we have it, we don't really know how much is there. And a study there would be important, but this is something we can do right now and get started on it and know what we have and what's available for our use.
Wade.
Wade Poulsen, General Manager of the County Water District. If you would like, I can give you a little bit of history of what we just went through with the Basin and Range National Monument that was just thrust
That'd be
upon
great.
us. When they tried to make that an NCA a little over 4 years ago, and we had some meetings, and at the time, we have applications out in Garden and Coal Valley, which is what encompasses the 705,000 acres of the National Monument, which they just created. But at that time, we made a decision to go out there and start a monitoring program. And that was our saving grace to all of our water applications, because it became historical use. And each National Monuments draft, when they draft the language, is drafted differently. And the language of how it will be drafted, and when it's presented by the president and he signs it, whatever the draft says is what becomes the law through the Antiquities Act. But if you have a historical use, typically you'll be able to continue that historical use unless if it is defined in that draft that you cannot use what was been done historically, such as oil and gas leases. In the draft of the Basin and Range, the one thing that was excluded was oil and gas lease. So the BLM can no longer allow oil and gas leases to go into that acreage. Since we had a water monitoring program already in place, we can continue to develop our water applications because we had a water monitoring program in place and we were active in it. Also, we have right-of-ways, and we applied for right-of-ways. And all of those right-of-ways, and I just had a meeting with the BLM last week and was talking to them about it, all of those right-of-ways are still in place. They can still be done, they can still be used, and they can still be, we can still utilize those right-of-ways because we had them in the queue prior to the draft of the National Monument. So that is something to consider, is what are the historical uses. If you have a project